discussed in March and April of this year. There's been some, shall I say, skepticism about that roadmap, and I wonder if you can fill us in on, have you seen it? Have our officials seen it? I know the Swiss were involved in it. And the other question about what happened in April, an expert on Turkey the other day alleged that Armenia had moved the goalposts and that this is what had caused such a meager result in April of the roadmap.
Do you want to rephrase? Okay. Thank you very much. As some of you know, there is now an ongoing effort between Turkey and Armenia for rapprochement, to open the borders and normalize relations. This is an effort that the Swiss are mediating and have been mediating for some time. The U.S. Obviously has good relations with Armenia, with Azerbaijan, with Turkey, excuse me, with Turkey and with the Swiss. And so when we're asked for assistance, obviously we provide it. And so we have a role to play as well. These negotiations have been going on for some time. And much of it, I know it's not a surprise to you, much of it is not perhaps visible entirely to the public. And I know you'll appreciate that as a diplomat. I think one of the obvious examples of that was what they call the so-called soccer diplomacy in September, when President Sarkisyan, I think very courageously invited President Gül to come to Armenia and watch a soccer match between Turkey and Armenia. And I think it was, it was courageous of President Gül to also come. And so that was, one visible element of those negotiations. The statement that you refer to in April was another. The joint statement between Turkey and Armenia was another example of that progress forward. And I think, again, I understand that there are a number of people and groups that are perhaps skeptical of whether this is going to move forward or not. I think it's possible. The U.S. government thinks it's possible and thinks that it's like I said before, worth pushing towards. But again, possible does not mean inevitable. I'm not familiar with the quotation, or not the quotation, but the report of Armenia changing the goalpost, and as far as I know, that is not the case.
We're going to the back first. Anyone in the back? Please. Yes, and speak up, please.
Hi, Ambassador. Thank
Hi.
you for speaking to us. I'm Kate Nalpetian with the Armenian National Committee of America. We just heard from Ambassador Evans, and he courageously spoke honestly about the Armenian genocide at a forum very much like this, and he was fired for that. Do you feel that you would suffer the same fate if you were to do the same?
Well, obviously I can't comment on personnel issues, and I can't really address that particular issue. What I do know is that I'm here as a representative of the U.S. government, and so all of us, whether it's on any of the issues that I've touched today or any other issue, uphold U.S. government policy.
Thank you for your speaking.
Please.
Sir. My name is Levan Bakramian. I'm a fellow here at the Policy Forum Armenian. Could you please elaborate a bit more clearly what the embassy understands in saying widespread irregularities? And could you also comment on, as far as the president is concerned, President Obama and the embassy, what is the best case and not the best case example of democratic countries amongst the post-Soviet countries?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the last part?
What is the best case and perhaps the worst case example as far as democratic development is concerned in the post-Soviet countries?
Shall we repeat that one?
Sure, yeah.
Let me repeat that one because there are two very substantive. You snuck in two questions. She was asked, the ambassador is asked to comment on what she means by widespread irregularities in the elections. And she has also been asked to determine which of the countries in the area best represent democratic governments and societies.
Post-Soviet.
Post-Soviet, that's what I meant, in the area.
Thank you, thank you. And obviously, when you say widespread irregularities, you mean in the elections, right? Sure. Yeah. Well, I would refer, for those of you who are interested in the details, there have been a number of reports that have been issued on this, and our office at the US OSCE in Vienna also issued a statement several weeks ago relating US government views on the mayoral elections. As I said, there were a number of positive things that we saw, and I want to emphasize that. But we also saw a number of irregularities that included, changing the vote count after it was tallied in a number of precincts. It included busing people in from other localities in order to vote. It included sort of a climate, shall we say, and this is a little bit more subjective, but a climate of fear, really. I know that when I went to a number of precincts, people didn't want to talk to me, and they would follow me out afterwards and say, well, did you know this? And we saw that not only in the one very contentious district, but throughout Yerevan. Oh, and then the best case and the worst case. Well, you're not going to be surprised. I'm not going to answer that question directly. I guess what I would say, and that kind of every country, including the U.S., United States of America, develops at its own pace, and sometimes we see steps forward in one area very positively, and then sometimes we see a little bit of backsliding. And I think you can see that throughout the former Soviet Union. These kinds of transitions from a Soviet system to a democracy, and I think every single country in the former Soviet Union has said that it is their goal to move forward towards democracy, to move forwards towards a market economy. Now, what that exactly means in practice and in the minds of leaders as well as the people is obviously different in each case. And as I stated in my formal remarks, I think it's not only Armenia that has to develop in its own way, in keeping with its own traditions and history. It's every single country, and all of them have their own rich traditions and culture and history. So I think, throughout the region, in each country, you can see success stories in some areas and maybe some areas where they could do considerably better.
This gentleman has been waiting since the last time around. Yes, please.
Hi. I'm sorry?
Hovannes Kasparian.
Hi.
Also on behalf of the ANC. Ambassador Ivanovich, you said that Armenia is one of the larger recipients of foreign aid, and then I would just like to ask, how would you explain the previous administration as well as Obama's proposal to reduce foreign aid, this time by 38%, while in the meantime increasing foreign aid to, let's say, Azerbaijan by 20% and other countries in the region as well?
Thank you very much.
Did you all,
Oh, go ahead.
Did you all hear that? Okay, very good.
Thank you for the question, because it's an important one, and I know it's one that bothers a lot of people. The U.S. government is committed to its bilateral relationship with Armenia, and we're committed to supporting Armenia and the Armenian people. And I don't want you to be in any doubt about that. The way we characterize the administration's request is different from the way you characterized it just now. The U.S. government, this is a Washington audience, so I know that you all know the budget process probably much better than I do. But it's a long and complicated process, and the first step is the administration request. Then there are subcommittees that look at it. Both chambers of the Hill, and then there's finally a reconciliation bill that moves forward with our final budget. So we're far from that stage. But what you're referring to is the administration's recent request for assistance for Armenia. And that was a 25% increase over the request from the previous administration. So again, I know that you look at it in a different way and characterize it differently.